don't buy a mechanical keyboard. Let me just say that again. Don't buy a mechanical keyboard. If you're happy enough with your normal keyboard, then turn this video off and watch something else. Panda cubs falling out of a tree, maybe. They're good. If you've seen a few articles extolling the virtues of mechanical keyboards and ever wondered what the fuss is about, you should walk away too. Mechanical keyboards are a never-ending source of unhappiness in a quest for perfection. This is why mechanical keyboard groups online are filled with endless posts from people declaring endgame. Endgame is where you finally have a keyboard that fulfills all of your wishes and needs. And the truth about endgame is that you can never achieve it. Now why not? Mechanical keyboards offer endless variation and customization. You can adjust every aspect of your keyboard, yet there's always something that you haven't thought of or didn't know about. There's always some improvement you can make, and it's this just one more and grass is greener aspect that makes this a doomed hobby. And it is a hobby. You might think that acquiring a keyboard is just a matter of finding one that's right for you and buying it, but it isn't. It becomes a hobby. I've got an entire cabinet that's full of nothing but keyboard stuff. And it's an expensive hobby. Have a look at this. There's a full set of keycaps, that's the plastic tops of your keys, in a rather fetching grey colour, and it's under £8. Now here's another set of grey keycaps that somehow cost 20 times as much. So what's the difference? It doesn't matter. The real difference is that you'll be satisfied with the £8 set when you first start. But you'll soon end up buying the $150 set at some point, and you still won't be satisfied. I was so caught up in trying to get just the right caps lock key that I ended up learning how to mould plastics. I created my own key, and it only took months of my life and a surprising amount of money, and that's for one ordinary key. Have a look at this. And look at that price. 45 quid for a single keycap. And that one's actually quite tasteful and usable. Have a look at these artisan keycaps. Can you imagine actually trying to use these as functional keys? Sure, most people use them as an escape key or a function key or something, so they're not going to actually use them very much. Ooh, that one's nice. Maybe I could... Whoa, no. And that's just a quick look at keycaps. There are also key switches. Have a look at all these. They're all different switches. Each one feels slightly different. Each has its own characteristics. And how can you possibly choose? How can you be sure that you've got the right one? There are even people who take apart switches and install parts from other switches whilst applying specialist lubrication. None of the hundreds of types of switches available here were good enough for them. And what about the case? Oh, there's a lot of them. You can really get fancy with cases too. And then there's the circuit board. Even once you've got the circuit board, you can change the way it responds, alter the layout, add extra layers of functionality. And all of this is just the parts. What layout of keyboard do you want? American ANSI layout? European ISO? Full-size 104 and 105 key keyboards aren't cool. 60% boards are where it's at. These eschew numeric keypads, function keys, and those page up, page down, etc. keys. It's effectively a laptop keyboard. Those missing keys are emulated through function layers, but even a 60% layout isn't cool enough. Some people go down to 40%, or even 20%. And then there's split layouts, ortho, etc. And you don't want to stick to the Cherry MX standard, do you? That's far too obvious. Get yourself some Alps, or some vintage IBM buckling springs, or some switches that operate in an analog manner by deflecting light beams, or something that uses the Hall effect. And how about some DSA keycaps, or some SA, or XDA, or... yeah, it just goes on and on and on. So this is why you shouldn't buy a mechanical keyboard. Once you start playing around with it, you'll find yourself deep into an expensive hobby with no end in sight. Look at this. This is a keycap puller. It came free with a set of keycaps. Now look how many of these I have. How many keycaps do you think I've bought in order to have this many? I used to have a Logitech G15. It was a nice keyboard and I liked it. It was just a standard rubber dome keyboard, but it had a nice little screen where I could run a program that gave me information about my system. Very handy, as I could tell at a glance what my computer was up to, but it started failing and I wanted to replace it. The trouble was, Logitech hadn't been producing G15s for a while, and I bought mine as discounted stock from a failing British retailer, So I was going to need a new keyboard. Now, Logitech had made a couple of other keyboards that had a little screen, but they weren't in production either. I could get a Logitech G13 keypad, and that had the screen. Cool. So I got that, and my little system monitor lived on. I also got used to the orange aesthetic of the G15, so I set the G13 to use an orange colour scheme. But I still needed a keyboard. And I liked the Logitech software that brought a lot of my devices into one panel, so I bought a Logitech G710 Plus, and this was a mechanical keyboard. It uses Cherry MX brown key switches. These switches are tactile, which is to say that they have the sensation of a bump as you press down on them. When you feel the bump, the key has activated. You don't need to press it all the way down to the bottom. I hear that for touch typists this can be very useful and can speed up their typing. I'm not a touch typist, I type very quickly, but I just use 2 fingers and involve some of the others a bit. But the colour of the G710 Plus wasn't doing it for me. I liked the little plastic strip on the left, but my G15 had some orange backlights which I quite liked. But the backlights of the G710 were white. So I got myself some little plastic caps to fit over the LED lights to make them orange, but some of the custom keys on the keyboard still had white lights. So I ended up cutting film light gels to shape and install them under those keys, and then I started changing the keycaps. This is what a standard G710 Plus looks like. And this is mine. That's a blend of 6 different sets of keycaps, plus all the caps on the lights, etc. Now 2 years on, and I've had to buy a piece of furniture to store all my keyboard stuff, and that's really just the stuff I use regularly. There's a whole pile more in the other cupboard. So, yeah, do you really want to get yourself into mechanical keyboards? Do you really want to get involved in this never-ending quest for perfection? Because there never will be perfection. And you will always look at other keyboards and think, ooh, maybe I could. No, no, no. Don't buy a mechanical keyboard. Okay?